Peter Berg, welcome to the show.
Pleasure, man. Thank you.
Man, I can't even believe you're sitting here. I've watched so many of your movies and series, and to have you sitting here is pretty surreal.
Well, I feel the same way. I've watched a lot of your shows, and I figure it's good. It's good for you to expand your reach and get a director to come on here because I think I asked you if you'd had any other directors, and you said not yet. So I'm glad to be here. I'm a big fan of yours, and good job, man.
Man, thank you. I am curious. I have to know this. How the hell did you got to be a super busy guy, and with who you appear to be surrounded by? I mean, how did this pop up on your radar?
I was trying to think about when I first came to know of you. I know a lot of SEALs, and it might have been Marcus or Morgan Luttrell that somehow got you on my radar, and a couple of other guys that are living in California that I know, but just your name came up. I'm always interested in anything a SEAL is doing, particularly an ex-SEAL. I know how challenging it can be for so many team guys to kind of figure out the next chapter of their life. And we get a lot of guys in LA who are trying to figure it out and kind of trying to get into writing or directing or stunts. And I pay attention to that and try and help. And I heard about you and how you had kind of found this whole new career for yourself. And having gone through, the military experiences you have, I found it really fucking impressive.
Wow.
And that caught my eye also. So, I don't think people understand how hard that transition is. I mean, obviously military guys do, but civilians don't. They don't think about it. If they do, they, kind of think about it. But to go from the job that you've had, and, I've been fortunate to have a pretty decent look at, for a civilian, to understand how difficult it is to let go of that world and move into civilian life. I think it's important that people do make an effort. I do, and I just a lot of respect for what you've done.
Man, thank you.
A lot.
That means a hell of a lot coming from you. So I really appreciate it. I got all kinds of stuff that we're going to talk about when it comes to that. But everybody starts off with an introduction here. So Peter Berg, you're born in the heart of New York City in the 1960s. You moved to Los Angeles in your early 20s and have realized your dreams of becoming a celebrated film actor, writer, director, and producer, earning accolades across multiple platforms. Your approach to filmmaking is deeply personal, often focusing on real stories that highlight human endurance, teamwork, and the fight against adversity. Your films are known for their gritty realism, emotional depth, and action that feels both authentic and exhilarating. Among your many creative endeavors, Friday Night Lights, Lone Survivor, and Deepwater Horizon stand out as highlights in your career. More recently, you tackled the opioid epidemic. That's like super close to me, and I'm sure you know why, which we'll get into. The opioid epidemic head on with your epic show Painkiller. Just 1 week after its release, Painkiller ranked #1 in the top 10 English language series genre and currently has over 54 million hours viewed. And on January 9th, you're about to introduce your latest project, American Primeval, into the world on Netflix. I look forward to discussing that today. Thank you for giving us a sneak peek. That, it looks so awesome and so realistic, and the sounds in it it's amazing. It's amazing.
I think you'll like it.
I can't wait. I can't wait for that to come out. And clear eyes, full hearts.
Can't lose.
Can't lose. Let's dig in. So also, everybody gets a gift. Just a little something for the flight home.
Open it now, right?
Yeah, go ahead, open it up. Sir, vigilance
the gummy
elite
bears.
yeah.
Okay, they're not going to get me high. I'm not going to get me
No,
arrested or anything.
no, you'll have to go back home to California to get those.
Okay, I can get them.
But
I love gummy bears.
yeah, those are good. Little something for the fun.
Well, here's yours. I got you this because I said I might need it.
Oh,
I'm not
man.
good with 3 hours. That's, from what I understand, some of Tennessee's finest from right here, right in Franklin.
Oh man, this is awesome.
Yeah. I think it'll
Franklin
be good.
Distillery.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Thank you.
And then I got you, this is a limited edition. This is an American Primeval crew hat, which generally we had to earn up on the mountain. But I figure you've definitely done your fair share of earning. So that's a gift from me and the entire crew of American Primeval.
Man, thank you.
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna have you sign this. This is gonna be a relic in the studio.
I'd be honored.
Thank you. This is very cool.
Yeah, that's rare. That's a collector's piece.
Perfect.
Cool, man.
I'll get it. Yeah, we'll have you sign it after the
Okay.
after the interview here. And then one last thing, I got a Patreon account. They're my top subscribers, top supporters.
Okay.
They're the reason I get to be here and you get to be here. They've been with us since the beginning. And so one of the things I do is I offer them the opportunity to ask every guest a question. And you had a ton. So this is from Tori Miller. With so many great movies that you've directed and several based on true events, which movie was the most stressful to film and made you feel that you got it right when it finally released?
Right. So I've been asked this question before, and I'll give the real answer. Like, I could just say, oh, well, Lone Survivor is my favorite, or Friday Night Lights is my favorite. But the truth is, they're all incredibly fucking hard to make. Every single movie that any director makes, any TV show, is really, really hard. You go into it believing you're going to touch God and achieve real greatness, and you're going to change lives, and you're going to tap into the divine creative forces of the universe. And you just don't always do it. Sometimes you fail miserably. Sometimes you succeed. But the reality is they're all really, really challenging. And you end up kind of looking back, at least I do, and loving certain things about every one of them, even the ones that suck. Because you don't go into it thinking, hey, man, I'm going to make a really shitty movie and I don't care. No, you go into it like, I would imagine, an athlete goes into a game, a team guy goes into a building, a dentist goes into a mouth with a drill. You go in expecting to have a good result. If you're like a competitive, ambitious human being. And so I try for them all to work, every single movie. And, I love all of them. They're all really stressful. If you really push me, I'll probably say like Lone Survivor is my favorite, and that was the most emotional.
Yeah.
But I love them all.
Yeah, it's you've made some just amazing stuff. And but yeah, I would say, I mean, that had to be a lot of pressure, considering the events that happened that the movie's about. And then in just our conversation before we actually officially started the interview about showing the families. I mean, that's tough. I mean, that is.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking a little bit about it. And for some reason, I always say like I want to make a love story. Just film a love story with a girl and a boy on a beach, drinking wine, kissing and crying and doing all the things that people do, falling in love on a beach. And then I always end up on top of a mountain with a bunch of stunt guys fighting for their lives, and pyrotechnics, bombs going off, and weather and animals. And I can't seem to just make the love story. So I tend to be drawn towards more challenging projects. And in the case of Lone Survivor, like right from the get-go, when I met Marcus Luttrell, and first looked into his eyes, I knew I read the book quickly, and he was in town interviewing directors, and a lot of directors wanted that story. So I met with him, and literally from the moment I sat down with him and looked into his eyes, I was kind of caught up in this spell of emotion and pain and sacrifice, and this energy that Marcus had kind of got me, and still to this day, it still gets me. Just FaceTiming him, I have such a connection to him. But making Lone Survivor, and started with going to the Dietz family, the Axelson, the Murphy family, and asking for their blessing and telling the story. And all three of those meetings were very emotional. I remember going to Danny's parents' house in Colorado, and his father taking me into his bedroom, which they left kind of as it was, almost from a young age, or Hot Wheels and posters of girls and toys and all kinds of things. And there was also his uniform that had been recovered, and his father
that they recovered. Holy shit!
His father sat me down on Danny's bed, which is his bed from childhood, and he had a piece of paper, and he started reading from the paper, and he started talking about I remember hearing after action report, autopsy, and he started reading, and he said, left knee, bullet, left thigh, bullet, groin, bullet. And I realized he was reading his son's autopsy report. And he started shaking, and he said, abdomen, bullet. And I could see the tears falling out of his eyes and hitting that paper. And he finished, I can't remember how many times Danny Dietz was shot, but a lot. And he put the paper on my lap, and the autopsy report was his father's tears in it. And he said, that's who my son was. That's how tough my son was. You make sure you get that right. And I thought to myself, okay, what the fuck have I gotten myself into with this? Not a joke. Very, very real to some very good, decent human beings, parents and wives and siblings. And there was a tremendous amount of pressure to make sure that when I was done and I showed that film to not just the families, but the entire SEAL community. I think Admiral McCraven was running either SOCOM or the SEALs. I'm not sure what he was running when we finished, but I had to show it to him and all of those folks, and the families and everyone in between. And every day I was making that film, I was thinking about the Murphys, the Dietzes, the Axelsons, Marcus, and so was the whole crew. So was Mark Wahlberg. It became something much more than a movie for us. We didn't quite realize the power of the brotherhood, of the SEAL community, of your community, at first. Maybe certainly some of the actors didn't, but very quickly everyone did. And that movie had a special gear that is very hard to find. And I think if you ask Mark Wahlberg or Taylor Kitsch or Ben Foster, anyone that was involved in that film, we see each other, text each other, and like, no, that was it. That was one that will be hard to replicate, and a feeling that's very hard to get. And the pressure to get it right was there every day, including the Trell on set every day, reminding me that if I didn't get it right, he was going to kill me. So that every day I would, by the end, at first I was really scared, and then sort of halfway through I would see Marcus in the morning, I'd be like, I know, I have to do a really good job today or you're going to kill me. Anything else? He'd be like, nope, that's it. I got it. And then I'd go about it.
Man.
And then he had Morgan kind of like lurking as backup.
Yeah.
Because, for me, Marcus was a scary one, but Morgan was a really scary one, who really didn't have to say much, but was, have you met Morgan? Do you know him at all?
I've never met him.
I mean, he's such a great guy, and, in Washington now doing really well. I just spoke to him last week. And, having those two guys suddenly in your life, and then just the general SEAL community was a gut check, and it definitely focused a little bit harder every second than I have in some other films.
If you're like me, getting a good night's sleep is a struggle. Between aches and pains, trouble falling asleep, and sleeping through the night, it can be tough to feel rested, and that can really negatively impact your quality of life. Sleeping well is key to a long, healthy life. That's why I'm proud to partner with Helix. Their mattresses are top quality and designed to fit your needs. So many of my listeners are getting the best sleep of their lives and saving money with Helix's New Year's offer. You will not regret buying one of these mattresses, I can guarantee it. Helix is dedicated to helping everyone sleep better so they can live better. Even with my busy life, I'm able to get a good night's rest and wake up feeling energized, thanks to Helix. And right now, my listeners can go to helixsleep.com/SRS for 25% off site-wide plus 2 free dream pillows with mattress purchases. That's helixsleep.com/SRS for 25% off site-wide plus 2 free dream pillows with mattress purchase. helixsleep.com/SRS. Are you looking for a voice that truly represents your values? Meet AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, founded in 2007. AMAC was created to champion the needs of Americans who believe in faith, family, and freedom. Today, AMAC is over 2 million members strong and growing. The mission is simple but powerful: to protect the interests of all freedom-loving Americans, advocate for common sense policies, and offer incredible member benefits, including the award-winning AMAC magazine. To exclusive discounts on travel, insurance, and everyday services, to a strong voice in Washington, AMAC is here to make a difference in your life and our nation. Joining AMAC isn't just about benefits, it's about belonging to a community that stands for timeless American values. And right now, regardless of your age, they're offering an incredible deal. Enroll in a 5-year AMAC membership for 47% off. Visit amac.us/SRS today to take advantage of this special offer. That's amac.us/SRS. Join AMAC and be part of a movement that stands for you, your family, and your future. Yeah. Wow. Wow. That's heavy. I mean, it's interesting, the kind of some things we can relate to, that being one of them. I mean, my platoon was the guys that went in and relieved them after that. And I told you about the rounds up there. And
that just gave me goosebumps when I walked in here and saw the rounds from the Chinook that crashed. That I was not expecting to see that.
Yeah. It's pretty heavy. There's some heavy stuff in this room that's very historic. But I remember, when we got the after actions report when we got into country, and they showed us. It was some kind of a recruiting video that
Al-Qaeda put up.
Yeah,
I saw it.
And I remember seeing, I was new, fairly new, and I remember seeing Danny Dietz upside down on the mountaintop, and his cami blouse was pulled up, and a lot of the guys in my platoon were in a team with Danny, and they were like, "Holy shit!" Like, he just got that tattoo, and I was with him when he got it on his rib cage, and it was just like, that's when it became very real for me.
I can't imagine how personal and how much emotion you guys must have felt seeing those videos. I saw those videos.
It's rage. I mean,
yeah.
I would watch them every time we went out on an op. That was my warm up.
Yeah, man.
I would. This is why the fuck we're doing this, because of this, and then I can't wait to get into some of the opiate stuff too. With you, that's something we can relate on. I lost my best friend to opiates, and who was struggling. You were just talking about, the transition from four military guys getting back into civilian, and
Yeah.
everybody goes down the spiral, and he didn't make it out. And it was because of opiates.
I mean,
Actually, it was because of that operation. So that was my best friend's team.
he was part of the recovery operation.
He was part of the recovery operation. I'll tell you this. I've never talked about this, but that was his sister platoon. He was in Iraq. They were having a great deployment, which means they were going after a lot of bad guys. His name's Gabe. I don't know if I should be doing this, but fuck it. I'm going to do it. And because he had one of the worst runs I've ever heard. And he was engaged and had a mess up at a strip club and got a stripper pregnant. Broke off the engagement. Was going to do the right thing. He was going to do the right thing in his mind, which was to marry the stripper, have the baby, and he deployed to Iraq. Well, they were getting after it, and she went into labor. There were some complications, so he left Iraq to come home and to be with her while the baby was born. Gets home, goes to the hospital. The baby's dead. The mom is dead. He doesn't tell anybody. He goes back to SEAL Team 10 and says, hey, I want to go back with the guys over in Iraq. They say, oh, you didn't hear the guys are coming home early. He had screened to go to development group, and they said, hey, you need to re-enlist. So how about you jump in with your sister platoon who's in Afghanistan right now? He's like, well, I don't have any of my gear. It's all in Iraq still. And they said, don't worry, you don't need gear. You're not going on operations. You're just going to go over there, re-enlist, get it done, jump back on the Berg, come home. So he wears his dress camis, gets on the Berg. They land in Germany for a layover, find out that Marcus is on the run. Then he lands in Bagram, so they know that 3 guys have died and that Marcus is on the run. They land in Bagram, and he finds out that the helo went down, which was all his, the rest of his friends. Wants to go on the recovery op with Dev. They wouldn't let him on at first, and he was like, basically, he's like, they're like, you don't have any kid, you can't go. He's like, I don't give a fuck. I'll scrounge up some shit. So in his dress camis, goes and takes piecemeals some shit together from the techs. Gets like a helmet that doesn't fit with a monocle, piece of night vision, like a shitty rifle, without any optics on it. And he's in his like a old flak jacket that you knew the gear we were using back then because you made the movie, but it was like the old shit that didn't even have any magazines on it. Found a couple of magazine pouches, put it on, goes on the fucking op. The dev guys are all like, who the fuck is this? Why is a tech coming on this? And goes on the op. And but I mean goes on the op to recover the bodies. They get in a firefight out there, and he also had a role in Benghazi. He also had a role in the coast bombing at the agency, but never fucking told anybody, and he told me when he was in Buds, with, I know James Suh was one, I think Axelson was the other. And he was in Buds when 9/11 happened and through Hell Week. And he told me he was sitting on the grinder, or standing on the grinder. Suh was on one side, Axelson's on the other. And this is like 30 minutes after the towers go down.
What a time to be on the grinder.
Yeah. And so they give a speech, and they're basically saying, hey, like, It's been peacetime for a long time, and your guys' generation is going to war. And look to your right and look to your left. There's a good chance that one of these guys are going to be dead, in the near future. James saw Matt Axelson, and when he landed in Bagram, it was that Master Chief that gave that speech that greeted him coming off the fucking bird.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
yeah. And then he later died of addiction with opiates. And so I've never told anybody that. Never told.
I appreciate.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just kind of goes back for me to what we were talking about, the complexity of the difficulty of surviving for anyone that went through buds during 9/11. Okay, yeah, you're going to be busy, and good luck surviving that. Just literally coming back alive, like Sa and Axelson couldn't. And then if you do come back, the complexities of having to carry, forget about the woman and the baby. I mean, that's horrific. And that would do most people in. Then whatever you saw in theater, and people, these guys are coming back and having to try and move on. And I, know some professional athletes, and I've seen the complexities of an athlete retiring. I own a boxing gym in LA, and we get a lot of military and pro athletes that come in there and train, and just especially when they've gotten out, and I see firsthand how hard it is for pro football players. We have a couple in there now. We've had a lot of team guys come in, and they're trying to just stand on their feet like children again, like babies in a new world. And I can't imagine how hard it was for your friend to come back with the weight of those experiences in a world that's not necessarily receptive, and we can't see the injuries, right? So I could be talking to you and you look pretty good, and you're handsome, and you're ex-fucking Navy SEAL, and everybody loves a Navy SEAL, and so you're cool. Inside it can be, a different story. And I remember when someone gave me the statistic about how much money the government spends making a SEAL, right? All the training, everything, 3 phases, and then all the specialized training. And then, I heard pretty high numbers for what it costs to make a SEAL versus how much money they put into kind of keeping an eye on a SEAL when he's done.
They don't care about us when we're done.
I tend to agree. I mean, certainly they don't act like they care. They might say they care, but if you just look for actions, that's where it kind of gets hard for me to sort out.
Yeah. They try to hide it. They try to hide it. They don't like talking about it because it fucks up recruiting numbers.
For sure.
The upper echelon of the SEAL teams fucking hate this show because we dive into it.
Yeah, I would imagine.
We expose it, and it I don't care if it hurts the recruiting numbers.
Yeah.
They have, I believe they have a responsibility.
I understand that. I got to go when I was writing Lone Survivor. I got to go to Iraq with Team 5 to a place called Rawa. I don't know if you're ever out there. It was a Marine Corps base kind of by the Syrian border. And I got to spend a month, as a civilian embedded with a bunch of guys from Team 5. And that was, without a doubt, one of the greatest experiences of my life on many levels. And I took a lot from it and I have a lot of memories. But to this point, one memory that really stuck with me when I tried to when I look now back and I try to understand the transition for SEALs, but not just SEALs. It could be anyone who was in the military, but sure, it could be for Rangers or Delta or MARSOC or any particularly special operators that have to kind of get out. Something I remember from my time in Iraq was I got to go with the SEALs, and they were going to go into a house and kick in the door and get a guy. And so they all went in, and they wouldn't let me go in until it was secure. And so I was sort of out on the street, and I was on a corner with this one young SEAL. I think it wasn't quite a new guy, but he was young, little guy. And he was doing security on a corner, and I was kind of with him. And he wasn't really talking to me. He was kind of looking out in the street. And there were 3 Iraqi young men that had sort of come and were staring at us. And he knew enough Arabic to say, you know, go, get out of here. And he yelled it at him, and they stared at him, and he yelled it again. And they sort of walked away. And afterwards, after the whole lot, we were back at the base. I said, well, what would you have done if they didn't leave? And he said, I would have killed them. I said, what? He said, well, you know, the way I look at it is if I'm working and I see them, I own them. I own their shoes, I own their pants, I own their shirt, and I own their organs. I own their heart. Their heart is mine. So I do whatever the fuck I want with that. I own them. And I remember thinking, well, this guy's gonna have trouble getting out of the military. Like, how do you take, and I totally understood that mindset of like, fuck it, I will survive. My job is to protect this corner. My guys are in that house. I will fucking protect this corner. I understood that. But then thinking, well, this guy's gonna have to get out one day, and he's gonna be in traffic and someone's gonna cut him off, or he's gonna be in Starbucks and someone's gonna say some shit. And like the complexity of that kind of mindset to have to adjust to being able to be, like I remember someone once talked about Mick Jagger, right? The Rolling Stones guy. And you met in how in like 1975 when the Rolling Stones were the biggest band in the world, and Mick Jagger told a story about how he had to come home from a world tour where they were selling out stadiums all around the world, and he's Mick fucking Jagger, and he comes home and his wife, Jerry Hall, this woman, and he has a baby. She hands him the baby. She says, clean up the baby, and there's dog shit in the yard. And Mick Jagger's like, but I'm Mick fucking Jagger. I just came back from, you know, and I've always thought that moment, just a little moment where I felt what it means to have that kind of power in a place like Iraq. Well, now you got to come home and you have to turn it in, you have to retire and you have to move forward. I don't think civilians understand that.
Yeah, they don't. They don't, you know. But I think that that's a big reason why opiates become such a problem.
Yeah.
You know, in the community. I mean,
And they're right there, and so then
it numbs that out.
Turn it off.
Numbs
man.
it out, and then it's the only thing that seems to turn the switch off, you know, for a lot of people. And the immediate easy fix, you know, just it numbs you out to where you don't give a fuck, you know, anymore.
Yeah.
And then, you know, down the spiral we go.
Well, that was what Painkiller, you know, was for me. The show I did about Purdue Pharma, you know, and the Sackler family. It's interesting. Just today, what's the date today? What is it?
The 16th.
The 16th. So today on the way over here, someone sent me a New York Times article about a new twist in the opioid epidemic. These companies that serve as the middlemen between the doctors and between the prescribers and the insurance companies. There are these companies that control what the insurance companies will allow to be prescribed. So if the doctor says you should have 250, you should be able to take 250 milligrams of Oxycontin a day, these companies are in charge of regulating whether the insurance companies will pay for that. So they've got this incredible power. And there's 3 main companies, can't remember the names of them, but it's just today in the paper. And now it came out in the Times today that the Sacklers and other drug companies were bribing these guys to restrict the amount of pills that were allowed to be prescribed. So they would get paid off, and they would allow these incredible prescriptions to be put through and the insurance companies to pay for them. So it's just more of a game within a game within a game.
Damn. When you made that, I mean that exposed a lot of shit to the public. people weren't really thinking about. I mean, when you make something like that, do you have any fear?
A little bit. For a minute, I did.
You're fucking with some really powerful people.
So at first I didn't, right? It's like people say, well, when you went to Iraq, were you scared? And I said, well, not really, because there were 20 Navy SEALs around me all the time, and I felt pretty safe. When I got back and I kind of really looked at the map and figured out, I felt a little more nervous. But in the moment, I didn't feel nervous. Probably should have felt a little more nervous, but I felt very safe with the guys. The Sacklers, at first I'm like, well, yeah, these guys are fucking scumbags. Fuck them. Let's make a movie and let's tell the truth. You know, I have friends that have died from drug addiction and I don't give a fuck, and let's go. I'm not scared. The more research I did, the more nervous I got, because they're just like, these are like real mobsters. These are the real Pablo Escobars, the real drug dealers that are, you know, putting up numbers much larger than the Medellin cocaine cartels, the companies like Purdue and the Sackler families. So the more I learned about just how powerful and quiet they were, and what kind of masterminds at secrecy, like you still, if you try and, you know, search Richard Sackler, they're so fucking scrubbed that you'll get virtually nothing on them. And they just constantly cycle that. And I've yet to find anyone who's better scrubbed as far as, you know, internet than Richard Sackler, the kingpin of the Sackler family. But so the more I learned, the more nervous I got. And there was a moment where I was literally paranoid, and I'm like checking my back and like making sure doors are locked, and, you know, and having access to security if I felt threatened. And then I realized, like, if they want to get me, they're going to get me.
Yeah.
And kind of by the time we really got going, the wave was really getting big, and people were finally starting to say the name Sackler and realize just how dirty and corrupt this family was. And I felt I think all of us involved felt at least secure in that, like, it was so public at this point that if they did come after us, everyone was going to know. It's like I didn't have to leave a note like, hey, man, if something happens to me, it was Richard Sackler. People kind of already would get that.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, dude, I don't know if I want to stand so close to you. Or I'd invite my friends out to dinner, and they're like, yeah, no, we're good. I'm busy for a while. Let's see how the show plays out. People kind of distance themselves, jokingly, for a minute. But, I mean, I'm not necessarily, like, the biggest conspiracy guy. Like, I'm always up to entertain a good conspiracy story. Like, I'll talk about Lee Harvey Oswald for a long time and the magic bullet theory and all that. But I don't even know whether it's a conspiracy or it's just, like, the realization of how the world does business. And this, if you really want to understand what the fuck's going on, not just in pharmaceuticals, but I think on almost any business, certainly the business of war, right?
Yeah.
The amount of guys that are making money off of war, right? That's a different story. But the way the money rules the world, it's all about money, and the Sacklers knew it. And the Sacklers knew that they had this incredible product that could do this incredible thing, take away your fucking pain. Like, for anyone that's dealt with pain, whether it's like the emotional pain that your buddy went through after losing his child and girlfriend and seeing what he saw in that helicopter, he's in pain. Give me that pill. Give me 40 milligrams of that liquid honey, you know, that happens to have a little battery acid in the middle of it. I'll take it. And the Sacklers knew it, and they knew how to monetize it, and they knew how to game the system. And I think, like, the worst thing that I found, the thing that really floored me, was this guy Curtis Wright. Do you know who Curtis Wright is?
Curtis Wright, no.
So the one of the challenges the Sacklers had with OxyContin and Purdue had, they needed to get the FDA to approve it, right? They had spent so much money developing this drug, and they were having financial problems prior to OxyContin being approved by the FDA, that they were all in on OxyContin, and they needed the FDA to approve it. And, like, you think about the FDA, and, you know, big government organization, and it, is probably a big organization that probably does need a haircut, and I'll bet they're going to get one now with the new administration, which is probably a good thing, I think. But you think, oh, wow, the FDA has to approve OxyContin. That's probably a team of 50 scientists, and they're going to have to go. It was really just one guy. And it was this kind of nerdy dude named Curtis Wright, and he was the obstacle. He kept saying to the Sacklers and to Purdue Pharma, I can't approve this drug. This is heroin in a little M&M wrapper. Like, what are you, fucking crazy? No. And they kept trying. He went through multiple applications, and this one guy was saying no. And that was putting the entire Sackler family and Purdue Pharma in real risk of financial ruin. And so at some point prior to getting the approval, some members of Purdue Pharma took Curtis Wright to a hotel room in the Virginia area, somewhere near DC, and they spent a couple of days in a hotel room. And no one knows what happened in that hotel room. When they came out, Curtis Wright had signed the approval with the words that OxyContin is believed to be non-addictive. Is believed, which is weird language. It's not OxyContin is not addictive. It is OxyContin is believed to not be addictive, but no one ever used that language. Doesn't make any sense. Curtis, he approved it. The drug gets, going, and it becomes a grand slam home run, and the money's off the chart. About a year and a half later, Curtis Wright leaves the FDA and goes and works for Purdue Pharma.
Shit.
He was making, they say, $70,000 at the FDA, hundreds of thousands at Purdue. They bought him. And when I heard that, I'm like, okay, that is how the fucking world operates. It's not a conspiracy, it's a fact. And, it's public. People know about it. Human beings like your friends and friends that I have are dying and are still dying. People are getting addicted. Families are being thoroughly fucked up and derailed. And this is how it goes. And so it was, making Painkiller was just an emotionally powerful experience. I don't think there was a day filming it when someone on the crew didn't come up to me and say, hey, can I talk to you for a second? My best friend died. My cousin died. My mother died. Just in your studio today, someone that works for you came up to me and started sharing me a story about their relationship and to a family member and the drug. And it's omnipresent, and it's horrible. And it's, what I get from it is like, let's open up our eyes and be real honest about how this world operates.
Yeah.
And usually it's money.
What were some of the things, what was the initial thing that kind of got you paranoid about the Sackler family?
I remember I was trying to interview members of Purdue Pharma because, like I said, you can't get any information on the Sacklers. So I was trying to interview members, people who had worked for the company, and we couldn't get anyone to talk. And then a journalist from the New York Times who'd written a book that was one of our pieces of source material for the book called Empire of Pain. The author of that book called me and said, there's a woman who will talk to you. And she used to work for Richard Sackler as one of his 5 secretaries. And I'm like, great. He's like, she's going to call you at whatever time in 2 days. Be ready. She's going to call you. So I was in pre-production on the film. My phone goes off. It's FaceTime. And I answer the phone, and it's this woman. And she's in a car, and she's pulled over on the side of the road. And she starts talking to me about working for Richard Sackler. But she's getting real close to the phone, and she's whispering. And she keeps looking around, and she told me she'd left work and driven to the parking lot of a little strip mall, and she was, willing to tell me enough about him. She told me some things about him, but I could feel her legitimate paranoia and fear of talking about him. And after that call, I came back and I said, guys, we just gotta watch our backs.
Yeah.
And be smart, because we are poking a bear.
Yeah.
And that I don't know, man. They still could get me. And if they do, if I go quick or I go weird, check out the Sacklers.
I will.
I do feel pretty safe here with you, though, I got to say.
We're in good company.
Yeah, I feel safe.
But did you struggle with addiction at all, or?
I was lucky. I never had addiction. I have family members that they've used 12-step to their I have one sibling, and she's done an incredible job. She's 30 years sober, and AA has been a godsend to her. And we've talked about addiction, and I've asked her, I'm like, what do you think it is? Like, I've asked her, do you think I'm an addict? Because I do drink. There's not a drug I haven't tried. Pretty much. I don't think I've done bath salts or angel dust. Okay? But take those two, maybe a few others, but I've tried them. And I don't know, man, I always had that ability to sort of see through the shot, see through the line. If someone put a line of Coke in front of me back in the day, I might do one. But then I think about the other, and I kind of have that it's not that I didn't want to do it and that I didn't see kind of what was good and what felt good about it, but I was able to sort of see, well, let's jump ahead 24 hours, 48 hours, and think about the cost, the hangover, the self-loathing, the self-disgust, the bad choices that start to accumulate, and I was able to kind of, I'm good. And my sister said to me that ability to have that pause is something that can separate, an addict, a true addict, from someone that's not. And I think about that because it's not any superhuman quality. It's nothing that I take credit for and be like, oh, I can do this, any more than I think most of the addicts that I know suffer it's not about weakness. It's not mental weakness or physical weakness that's causing someone to go back to that drug or back to that behavior, whatever it is, that's so fucking self-destructive. It's a disease, I believe. And I'm fortunate that I don't think I have it.
Yeah.
And do you? Have you experienced it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Is that common knowledge? Forgive me for not knowing.
Yeah, it is. I had a hell of a run in Colombia with cocaine.
Yeah.
I appreciate the bottle, but I've been sober for 3 years.
Good for you, man.
And well, I've been on booze for 3 years, but yeah, I was really riding the line there. Opiates, coke, benzos, booze, sleeping pill, all of it combined together. And then I did a psychedelics treatment.
You had a little journey. You went on a
little
journey.
Went down to Mexico to do some drugs that got me off the drugs.
What were some of the drugs? I'm sure everyone knows this, and you've talked about it.
That's
Forgive
fine.
me.
It was so I had really cleaned it up. So I moved down to Medellin.
Yeah, that's a tricky spot for anyone that's
For a while.
even tempted to flirt with the devil. You're going to find it down there.
Well, that's kind of why I went. And
You found what you were looking for.
I definitely found it, and overdosed a couple times, almost died. I remember calling my mom on Mother's Day. I've always heard you don't have to worry about how much coke you've had until things start slowing down. And they said when you're on speed and things start slowing down, that's
Warning.
when you're riding the line. And that happened to me a couple times down there where it was like that fucking scene in Old School where the voice is like, "What?" I started hearing that.
How much coke had you done, do you think, and how long was the binge?
About 5 years, and a lot I mean, it's, at that time, like really good coke in Miami was like $150 a gram.
Yeah.
And down there I was getting it for $5 a gram.
And it was so much stronger, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's
Sure.
fresh it's just right. I mean, it's Colombia, you know.
But would you do like, because I never did, but I heard about like 3-day, 4-day binges that people would go on, and you're not sleeping and you're just doing more. Did you ever experience anything like that?
While we may have won this election, the fight to restore a great nation has just begun. Now is the time to take a stand, and Patriot Mobile is leading the charge. As America's only Christian conservative wireless provider, Patriot Mobile offers a way to vote with your wallet without compromising on quality or convenience. Patriot Mobile isn't just about providing exceptional cell phone service. It's a call to action to defend our rights and freedoms. With Patriot Mobile, you'll get outstanding nationwide coverage because they operate on all 3 major networks. If you have cell phone service today, you can get cell phone service with Patriot Mobile with a coverage guarantee. But the difference is every dollar you spend with Patriot Mobile helps support the First and Second Amendments, the sanctity of life, and our veterans and first responders. Switching is easy. Keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. Their 100% US-based customer service support team will help you find the perfect plan. Right now, go to patriotmobile.com/SRS or call 972-PATRIOT and get a free month of service with promo code SRS. Switch to Patriot Mobile today and defend your freedom with every call and text you make. Visit patriotmobile.com/SRS or call 972-PATRIOT. You sign up for something, forget about it after the trial ends, then you're charged month after month after month. The subscriptions are there, but you're not using them. 85% of people have at least one paid subscription going unused every month. Thanks to Rocket Money, I can see all my subscriptions in one place and cancel the ones I'm not using anymore. And now I'm saving more money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money's dashboard gives you a clear view of your expenses across all of your accounts and keeps you informed with alerts if bills increase in price, there's unusual spending activity, or if you're close to going over budget. Rocket Money will even automatically scan your bills to find opportunities to save and lower your bills. Then you can ask them to negotiate for you. They'll deal with customer service so you don't have to. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/SRS today. That's rocketmoney.com/SRS. rocketmoney.com/SRS. I mean, it was all the time. It was all the time. And I would go, I don't know. I never really kept track, but I mean, I never stopped. Like I would go hard in the paint for a week.
Oh my goodness.
And then I would go all the way up until the point where like I would get like this really bad heartburn, and I would just drown Tums and Pepto and anything. Like I just wanted to keep.
How did you get yourself out of that?
Well, I actually got run out by the federal police, and I like really I always take care of everybody around me, and I do it with my team now. I've just always done it. I've always been, and so when I went down there, I had I had a penthouse in a neighborhood called El Poblado, and so anybody that was around me, I would take care of. So, like number one guy, doorman, who has access into the building that I'm in, the door guy. And so all the door guys, like, If I went to go get booze, they got booze. If I went to go get coke, they got coke. When I would leave Colombia to come back to the States, I would give them all my clothes, my shoes, my everything, like a computer. It done anything. If I went to go get a phone, I'd got them a phone. So I really took care of those guys because I knew that they controlled access into the building and up to my apartment. And so they had kind of tipped me off, and one of them in particular tipped me off, and had told me that they had set up a observation point in a building across from mine, and that they may have bugged the recessed lighting in the hallway outside of my where I was at.
But this was real, or was this like coke paranoia?
No, this is real.
Okay. Well, that
And
sounds fucked.
yeah, and so when I got wind of that, I hightailed it out of there and never went back. Cleaned up the coke, tried to clean it up. Then I started going to Costa Rica, but Costa Rica was like fucking Disneyland
Yeah, I
compared
bet.
to what I was doing.
Pura Vida. You weren't about the Pura
It was
Vida.
a joke. It was just a
Yeah.
bunch of gringos down there wanting to have sex with Latin Costa Rican girls. And
Yeah.
I was just like, this
Yeah.
is fucking stupid.
JV.
I need to be, because the real issue was adrenaline addiction
Yeah.
from all my time in, and
Right? But that
that's
goes
what I
back
was
to what we
chasing.
were talking about earlier. Like, you get to play God.
Yeah,
Talk about adrenaline. What are you going to do with that energy when you get out? You're going to go to Medellin and shack up,
yeah.
right?
People would come down to visit me and to think it would be a good time, which I thought, I'm not condoning this. It was horrible, and
Yeah.
I speak against it all the time
Yeah.
now. But they couldn't. They'd last maybe 2 days, and they'd come down to visit me for a month, and then I'd get a note, on my table that's like, dude, I'm out of here. It's like, this is fucking crazy, and because it wasn't. I mean, it's just different. It's just crazy down there. I mean, I used to go to this club. It was called Fahrenheit, and in the club, they had like these tables where they would line, like put lines and mounds, like little mounds and key bumps and shit on the table of coke, and then lacquer over the top.
Right now, some of your wide viewers are like just Googling Fahrenheit and booking plane tickets right now.
Yeah.
So
Well, that was a long time ago.
I'm
but,
sure they're looking.
But
Don't do it.
yeah, but don't do it. That doesn't lead anywhere good.
Right. So, okay. So what would happen? You go to Fahrenheit. How would that play out?
I mean, that was just one hangout. But what I really liked doing was, what I really liked was the adrenaline, it just, the adrenaline from the teams, and in my time at the agency, like it just, it was just always like shit was happening. And then when I left, I couldn't fucking feed that anymore. And I had nowhere to get it, and so I was like, I'm going to go down here. I'm like,
But what do you think? Did you go get into 12-step?
No,
What saved you? What got you to walk away from the drugs and the alcohol? And
that Mother's Day thing like really got to me, because I was like, man, I'm gonna fucking OD down here, and my body will just decompose because nobody really gives a shit about me down here. Nobody knows I'm here other than my parents, and they'll just eventually get a call like, hey, your son's body's fucking decomposing in this penthouse. He OD'd on coke, and like the career that I've had before that, it was just like, oh, there's my son, the former SEAL, former CIA contractor who's fucking died of a cocaine overdose. I was ashamed. And so I went home, and I still struggled with the benzos, and because down there I would just, you can get whatever you want. So if I was getting, eventually if I was going too hard down the coke train, I would just pop a Valium and then, but whatever. But then I had a suicide attempt, and that was really like the breaking point for me when I got back home. Just nothing was, I couldn't get anything going, and pulled the car in the garage and reclined the seat back, and I woke up. I should have never woken up, but Anyways,
That's what you call a positive fail, my friend.
yeah,
I'm glad you fucking failed.
me too.
I really am. I
too.
really am.
Me too. But so yeah. So then then I then but then I found psychedelics through this show, and went down there and haven't had kicked everything. I mean,
So the psychedelics helped you. Are you in 12-step? Do you use 12-step?
Peter, it was like a light switch, man.
What psychedelics did you do?
I did ibogaine and 5-MeO-DMT. And
You smoked a toad?
I smoked a
I've
toad.
smoked it 4 times, my friend.
Really?
Yes, sir.
I want to hear about this.
I love that toad.
Did you die?
Yes, sir.
Tell me about it.
I was going to recommend that you just smoked a toad before you told me that you did. How many times have you smoked a toad?
Well, one day I did it 13 times.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had to really get to it.
You got to dig deep, but
Wow.
but
Like
4 times I think I've done it.
It one like staying under.
It's an all-day event.
So
I started
you
at
come
like
out of
9
it,
a.m.
you go back, and you had a good shaman that was guiding you.
Yeah, amazing. And the first time was the scariest and probably the one that I got the most out of. I mean, like I said, between that and the ibogaine, this February it'll be 3 years since I
Those
had
are the
drop.
2 most powerful. Ibogaine I've never done, but I know what it is. I'm scared of it, actually.
Yeah.
And I've met the toad. Wow, you really, I can see how that would have taken care of a problem.
Cleaned me out. Still clean.
How many times did you do the ibogaine?
1.
That's enough, right?
Yep.
Different experience than the 5-MeO?
Totally different.
How would you explain the differences?
Well, I mean, the ibogaine's like a 12-hour experience.
They say the ibogaine is the godfather. Yes, like that's the most powerful.
Yeah.
I always heard that 5-MeO is the god molecule, but ibogaine is the godfather.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think so.
What was the ibogaine like?
Man, it was about 12 hours long. I couldn't walk afterwards. And it was, in a nutshell, it's like a life review. It's like a life review of looking at your life from an outside perspective, like a non-bias, for me, like a non-emotional perspective. And so a lot of the things that kind of happened, I guess you process them in a different
Like from
way.
way back, from when you were
Everything,
a little kid?
everything, and it wasn't all traumatic shit, it was like to be honest, it was like these TV screens, like thousands of them, kind of like going off into a distance and just disappearing. And and every screen was a different portion, like segment of my life. And I could see them through my peripherals and like see them, kind of moving through. And I could think like, oh yeah, that's, when me and my dad did this thing, and that is in Iraq, and that's when I was a teenager wrestling, and there was no like chronological order, there was no nothing, and if I tried to pay too much attention into one screen, then they would all disappear. And so it wasn't even like I was reliving experiences, but that's kind of, how it went for me. I didn't like, it wasn't a scary experience other than at the very first. I saw like my head split open and another one mushroomed out.
That's a little scary.
Yeah, but it wasn't, like you hear some of the horror stories about people reliving things or meeting demons. I didn't.
On ibogaine? Is that?
Yeah, I didn't meet any demons. It was just a life review kind of. And then when I came out of it, it's like I had this new sixth sense that said, hey, all this shit you're doing, it's fucking poison. Like, knock this shit off. Quit drinking. Quit, I quit caffeine for a long time. I quit smoking marijuana for a long time. I was still taking Adderall to concentrate,
right.
and hadn't had any of that. And like the fruit that came from that experience, just I mean, it totally like revolutionized this show and my business. I was kind of scared to leave the military genre, not leave it, but explore new territories, and like that somehow that just like
Do you credit the Ibogaine more than the 5-MeO
yes,
with your sobriety?
yes,
Because I've heard that.
yeah,
I've heard that from ex-military guys, ex-team guys who've taken Ibogaine, and they physically look different. I've seen them since, and
yeah,
the look in their eye, it's almost like their facial construction is different. Their cheekbones feel different. Their eyes feel different. Their posture, and they're sober.
yeah.
It seems to be one of the more effective medicines.
Yeah, I mean they've done studies on it now. It's I mean it's really changing a lot of lives,
Ah,
and it is the cure for opiate addiction,
yeah,
for alcoholism. And so if you are out there riding the fucking line, like we were just talking about, and you're looking for a way out, I'd highly recommend it.
yeah, man. Same here, and I do hope that whatever happens with Kennedy and the new administration, that people start looking at this, and that any of it, whether it's ketamine, psilocybin, 5-MeO, Ibogaine, that people start at least being educated on what it can and cannot do, and that the government starts making these medicines available. I'm all for it. My experience on 5-MeO, I never did Ibogaine. I don't know if I have the guts for it. I was scared to smoke the toad. I remember my friend took me, and my friend's a pretty high functioning business guy, successful, and and the fact that he had done it, and a couple other people I know that are pretty high functioning have done it, made me, willing to take the chance that I didn't. I was a little concerned that I was going to break my brain on something that powerful, but because they had done it, I felt confident. And I got to the place in California where I was going to do it the first time, and they were already doing it. And I was looking at them, and it's a little, if you watch somebody that's going through it, they're making some noises and moving around a little bit. And I was like, not quite sure what kind of experience they were having. And the guy who was actually a psychiatrist, who is now the administrator of this, and he used to do antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication, and he would write scripts for it. And he started learning about some of these psychedelics, and he completely changed his practice and only does 5-MeO and Ibogaine now. And I thought that was interesting. But he took me aside and he sat me down. He said, "Okay, Pete, you're about to ingest 5-MeO DMT. It's the most powerful psychedelic, certainly one of them in the world. It's going to last 30 minutes or so, and you're going to have this very powerful experience, and you might feel as though you're dying, but you won't." And he's telling me all this stuff, and I'm kind of looking at him. He's like, "Do you have any questions?" I said, "Well, I'd heard this about other psychedelics. Should I set an intention, right? Like, I want to make peace with my father, or I want to remember my grandfather, or I want to spend time with my dog Schlemmer, who died when I was 8. Like, what's my goal? What should I do?" And I remember he looked at me and he put his hand on my shoulder. He said, "Good luck with that, Pete. Good luck. You try and set all the intentions you want." And that kind of freaked me out a little bit, because I could tell, like, you know what I mean? He was like, "Okay, you good luck with your little intentions." And I remember smoking it, and the feeling of, for me, what they call ego death, right? And I've talked to other people about it. Mike Tyson's talked about it. It's certainly nothing that I'm the only one that's experienced. But when you experience it, you really know you've experienced it. And it's interesting, because you try and explain it to people, and you find that words fail you, because we don't literally have the words in the English language to explain this kind of experience, because people just haven't experienced it, so they don't have words for it. And but it is death, right, of some sort. That's a word that people can relate to. And for me, the way I explain what I first experienced was as the medicine was taking over my mind, I felt myself trying to hold on to thoughts like, okay, I'm in Malibu, California. I'm in California. I'm on the West Coast of America. I'm in America. I'm on the Western Hemisphere. I'm on the planet Earth. I was trying to hold on to, and it suddenly my ability to think was just turned off about that thought. And then I went to, well, I'm Pete. My dad's Larry. My grandfather's Harry. My that's off. I'm wearing shoes. I'm wearing socks. I'm wearing that. And every thought I could have would suddenly be slammed off, almost like a steel curtain was shutting down. And I could feel myself trying to hold on to any kind of thinking, any kind of rational thinking. And every thought was just, doo, 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 doo. And then this giant wall of darkness came over me. And it was a sound, and it was like, over. And I remember thinking very clearly, I'm dead. And my first thought was, it's all over. It's all nothing. Everything is nothing. I thought that.
Wow.
Everything is nothing. And all of this sort of sudden, because these are just words now, I became aware sort of that something was still going on. I was still functioning. There was brain function. But it wasn't any brain function I'd ever encountered before. And then I just started going into something that felt so expansive and such an energetic experience that was kind of moving and unfolding in multiple directions, everywhere, everything at once kind of energy. And that energy overtook me. And I remember I sobbed and I laughed and I screamed. And when I came out of it, the people who were organizing this, the doctor and his assistants, one of the women had a pet wolf. And I didn't know there was a wolf in the house. And I came to and I was on my hands and knees and I had snot and tears all over me. And I really had this cathartic release of feelings that I just don't have the ability to access on a regular basis. And I looked up and there's this white wolf staring at me, like about as close as you are, a little further away, locked into my eyes.
Damn.
And I'm staring at this wolf and I start pointing and I'm trying to determine whether it's real, which it was. And I look up at John, the guy, and I'm trying to ask him if this is real. And I remember he put his hand on my shoulder. He said, Pete, try not to make sense of anything right now. Just stay in it. And it was an incredibly life-changing experience for me.
Sounds like a David Yarrow photo. Wow.
It was so powerful. And for me, because I'm not religious, I was raised a bit atheist. I'm a Catholic Jew, and my parents didn't believe in organized religion, so I just never really had access to it. This felt like an incredible religious experience to me, and for me, and as people like Pete, stop fucking talking about 5-MeO, but I love talking about 5-MeO, and if someone's done it, I'll talk to them about it for hours. Because for me, the big secret that we all keep, that we all walk around as humans on this planet, and we never acknowledge, well, there's a lot of them, but the real big one for me is the concept of infinity, right? The concept that if you look out into the sky at night, that in theory, it goes on forever in all directions. It never stops. It has no barriers. It has no ending, right? Very hard to get our mind around. I shared a car in Greece with Elon Musk alone for 35 minutes in traffic. And I was like, it's a long story, but I ended up in a car alone with Elon Musk and his driver and his security guy. And this was after I'd done it. And I'm like, I got Elon Musk for 35 minutes. What do I want to ask him? And I said, Elon, What are your thoughts? Can you explain to me, like in a way that I could understand your concept of infinity? Like, because I can't understand it. How do you process the concept of an infinite universe? And he looked at me and said, Pete, I don't have a clue. I don't think I ever will, and I don't think we ever will. And I remember, wow, okay, he doesn't get it. I'm not so, I don't get it either. That tracks. But when I was under it, the 5-MeO, I felt as though I was beginning to experience the maybe very beginning of a look at a glimpse of what an infinite energy might feel like. And that felt religious to me. It felt like, and it sounds so stupid for anyone, and I get it. Don't judge. Don't judge. Try it, maybe. That's where I went. And it really has helped me so much in every aspect of my life, as a father, as a filmmaker, as a friend, in business negotiations. It's given me access to a different perspective. And I would imagine for you, it doesn't feel like people are like, well, could I get addicted to it? And I don't know of anyone that gets addicted to things like Ibogaine or 5-MeO. It's like, no, I'm good. It takes balls. It's like I parachute. I've done, some jumps. And every time I've jumped, it's like you don't really want to, right? That last second, you're like, and how many jumps have you had, would you say?
Not very many.
Okay.
Not very many.
I had 13. On my 13th, I had a malfunction, so I haven't gone since. But every jump, no matter who, and I've been in plane, with some down in San Diego where, that Skydive San Diego, which is a great place, Jeff Bramstead. That's where all the SEALs train, and civilians. I go as a civilian. But a bunch of tough people jumping out of planes. And I know every one of them that second, right before they jump, they feel that. Maybe not today, at least most people do.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are a few psychos that don't. But that's how I feel about like 5-MeO, is like, I'm glad I did it, but man, if I'm gonna do it again, it's,
I'm hesitant to do it every time.
Have you done it once or you haven't?
No, I've done it, I think, 4 times.
Right? It takes...
And 4 different sessions.
It takes a certain type of courage to take that hit.
You don't know where you're going.
No.
And so you went in, so are you saying you're not an atheist now?
No, I'm not an atheist, but my belief, okay, don't judge.
I'm not here to judge.
All right. So the second time I did it, I went into this again. This time I skipped the crying. And one thing that's interesting is doing it a couple of times, I think you go a little bit further. Does this sound utterly insane?
No.
I think people are going to be like, oh, he's just fucking drug wacky dude.
Nah, we talk about this all the time on this show.
Because I really believe in this. And by the way, I don't believe in cocaine. I don't believe in recreational LSD. I think weed is problematic. Certainly don't, opioid.